We've been fighting the 7 evils for the past 4 games in the Diablo series, and some of them over and over again. Well, who are these Lords of Hell and why should we care? In this video, you'll find out. First off, let's talk about Azmodan. Believe it or not, folks, he is not just a Nikocado Avocado Mukbang King of Hell. He also happens to moonlight as the Lord of Sin. As the Lord of Sin, Azmodan relishes in guiding righteous people down the path of sin. He has an army of succubi and incubi under his command to indulge people in pleasures of the skin and drag them back down into hell with them. And speaking of hell, Azmodan's domain is considered the most densely populated and full of profane indulgences. It's said to start out as a harem that gets deeper and deeper into more perverse acts until pleasure and pain is completely indistinguishable. We can see some of this as a manifestation of his domain in Diablo 3's area Crater, where he has these titans bound in these searing hot metallic bondages. And also on our journey to pump him full of Ozempic, you find plenty of succubi along the way. Speaking of, we last saw him back in Diablo 3. He has not been seen yet in Diablo 4, but we can surely look forward to his appearance at some point in the future. Next, we have Belial, the Lord of Lies. Belial, like Azmodan, has made only a single appearance in the Diablo games, and that was back in Diablo 3. A master of manipulation, his cunning is only second to Mephisto in manipulating humankind to rally behind him and puppeteer them to accomplish his demonic will. This was seen back in Diablo 3 with the cult of Magda, where he made willing humans become participants in his demonic plans. Hiding in plain sight, Belial is the closest thing to what we consider the modern Antichrist, as he will appear as a charismatic, trusted leader of men, only to lead those people to their doom. And only once cornered will he show his true form, and we do see his monstrous presence back in Diablo 3. Now in Hell, Belial's realm is disguised as a realm of paradise, but the deeper you go in, the guise is shifted and you fall into torturous traps, fitting his deceptive nature. Next we have one of our silent antagonists, and that is Duriel, Lord of Pain. We've encountered Duriel twice so far, first off in Diablo 2 when he jump scared us in the Tomb of Tel Rasha, and then another time in Chaldeum in Diablo 4. Believe it or not, he is not just a Magadon steroids loot pinata that drops uber uniques, he is the Lord of Pain. Within his realm in Hell, he incorporates all sorts of torture devices on his victims to his grim satisfaction. Duriel does not seem to understand what pain means to his victim, and instead relishes off of his theater of agony. Next, our silent antagonist number 2 is Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish. Andariel is actually considered the twin of Duriel, and instead of physical pain that Duriel enjoys, she prefers the mental pain and anguish of her victims. The most sociable and relationship-oriented of all the evils, Andariel cannot deal with isolation because she gets true fulfillment from the agony of others. In fact, she used to be Diablo's closest confidant before betraying him and exiling him with his brothers into Sanctuary, where she relished greatly from his misery. Although Andariel is silent in the games, we do get a glimpse of how she functions through her possession of Taisa, living and writhing in her mind to raise her inner anguishes to the surface so she can take control. Honestly, lore-wise, she seems to be a really deep character, so it is a bit of a shame that the character isn't more fleshed out in the actual games themselves. That covers the 4 lesser evils, and now we move on to the big bad 3. First off, we're going to talk about Baal, the Lord of Destruction, who was front and center in Diablo 2's expansion, aptly named the Lord of Destruction. Now, Baal isn't just a destroyer, he also loves creating. Ironically, although Baal is called the Lord of Destruction, his domain is the only one that's able to actually create as well. He loves breeding and creating demons for the sole purpose of destroying them. The same thing goes to his vast, large, well-fortified cities within his domain that he creates, only to develop even bigger weapons that are then used to bring those cities crashing down. Those weapons are created in the Hellforge, which lives within his domain and is the only source of creation within the 7 realms of Hell. Now, Baal thrives on absolute destruction, and as such, he is an absolutely cunning mastermind when it comes to warfare. And we're able to see this in his assault of the area summit back in Diablo 2. Not only was he able to gain a foothold there over the barbarians, but then he went ahead and corrupted one of the most significant artifacts in the entire Diablo universe, which is the World Stone, one of the eyes of the original Anu, corrupting it to twist Sanctuary and any other worlds following his whims. As a result, Duriel, upon Baal's defeat, was forced to destroy this corrupted world stone. We haven't seen Baal yet in Diablo 4, but we have a few hints here and there as to where his whereabouts can be. And you can check that out in my previous video right over here. The second primeval we're going to talk about, Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred, is considered the most intellectual of all the evils in hell. In fact, it is said if there was one true Lord of Hell, Mephisto could be the one. His strength is in the power of turning people, no matter how close, against one another. And we could clearly see this with his offspring, Lilith, manipulating humanity to turn on their closest friends and neighbors in pursuit of her loyalty. In fact, his ploys run inside the domains of hell himself. He loves playing games to turn his own brothers, Diablo and Baal, against one another, and then putting himself in between as a mediator to pull the puppet strings on both of them. Mephisto's domain of hatred and hell is full of different factions conniving to overthrow one of each other and sowing discord on the inside. He loves cunning strategies, manipulations, betrayals, all based on his ability to generate hatred. However, this isn't always to his benefit. Mephisto is the only one, as far as we know, of the prime evil that has birthed two different children. One, his son Lucian, and the second, the front woman of Diablo 4, Lilith herself. His seething hatred towards his children and Lilith created such severe daddy issues that Lilith ran off with an angel, stole the World Stone, and created Sanctuary as we know it today. The last time we saw Mephisto was back in Diablo 2, where he freed his brothers from their vessels, Diablo rising from the Dark Wanderer, and Baal rising from Tal Rasha. Of course, we see plenty of Mephisto's involvement and Lilith's daddy issues in Diablo 4, where her primary objective is to absorb his essence. Instead, he managed to get Neyrel to absorb his essence inside of a soul stone, and we can see in the latest cinematic trailer for Vessel of Hatred that his manipulation of Neyrel is growing stronger every day. Whether she'll be able to hold out or not, we're going to see in October in Vessel of Hatred. Last, and certainly not least, the titular character Diablo himself, considered the youngest of the prime evils. Diablo is considered the strongest of all the evils in hell for one primary reason, and that is that he is terror manifest. He happens to be the only demon in hell that is unable to feel any fear. Although Mephisto is considered the most intellectual of the three prime evils, Diablo is by far the most cunning. His ability to grasp and manipulate humankind to follow and do his bidding is unlike any of his other brothers. In Diablo 1, he manipulates the Archbishop Lazarus, leader of the light, to provide him a vessel in King Leoric's son to resurrect Diablo in the mortal plane. And following Diablo's defeat by another one of Leoric's sons, Aiden, he somehow convinces Aiden sticking the Soul Stone in his head will allow him to contain Diablo. Instead, Diablo was pulling the strings, somehow convinced the witch Adria to sleep with him, birth a child, and then convince Adria to create this massive ploy in Diablo 3 to use Leah as a vessel for not just Diablo, but Diablo controlling the powers of all the other evils through the Black Soul Stone and becoming the prime evil. Although he was defeated then, I am sure we're going to see him again at some point in Diablo 4. That's it for this video, guys. If you enjoy quality, curated Diablo videos, this is the channel for you. Please help support me by subscribing, liking, and hopefully I'll see you next time.